So, hello everybody. Welcome to the June edition of the Hamlet Pharma digital meetings. It's a very special pleasure for us to summarize what has happened during this month of June because we have made significant progress. I know some time ago you asked about the timeline, and I say we never give timelines. But we said we sort of hoped that by the end of June we would have what is needed for our clinical studies to be initiated also at the clinical level. And we actually have delivered with the last press release yesterday of the EMA permission for our phase 3. But my plan is to go through each of these points and to start with just an overview of the press releases that have been done during June. The first one was of our publications in leading international journals of infection and cancer. We have 2 publications. Release of the phase 3 drug. I'll come back to this. You need the drug, and you need it to be of phase 3 quality in order to use it for these types of studies. We have prepared the phase 3, the neoadjuvant study, both by an in-person visit and by the EMA approval that I will comment on. And also we have opened a novel window, a novel clinical window, and also a novel geographic area because we are in collaboration with the University of Iowa, one of the world leading centers for bladder cancer development. And we even have signed very quickly and efficiently a contract with the University of Iowa to conduct this study, and I will tell you more about that. And also very timely yesterday, we received some international attention through a site called Brief Glance, and I'll quote some of their statements to you at the end. As I said, please keep your questions till the end, and then we can have a lively discussion. So the first press release in June was continued success for the new anti-infective therapies developed by Hamlet Biopharma. The Journal of Infectious Diseases, which is a very important journal, both clinically and experimentally, a US journal with high standing, published the paper called Targeting the Disease Response with NLPD and LYTM for Effective Non-Antibiotic Treatment of Urinary Tract Infections. You have heard about this compound. It's a compound from nice bacteria that we've isolated, and Ines Ombit in the group has developed this together with the group for several years. What they have now demonstrated is that inhibiting the disease response of the host offers an alternative to antibiotics. This is a key topic that we will publish more on in the near future. And by inhibiting the disease, we can both make the animals more well, they don't have disease left, and we can also help them clear the infection. So our findings, this is a citation from Ines Ombit, our findings challenge the view that bacterial infection must be treated by killing the bacteria with antibiotics. By identifying the disease mechanisms, we can treat the infection by targeting the disease, including antibiotic-resistant strains. So the next press releases that I will mention are about the phase 3 study, which is neoadjuvant treatment of bladder cancer by intravesical instillation of alpha-1H. And the first one is of course, the drug production. I remember about a year ago when you asked, when are you going to start phase 3? And I was telling them we've already started phase 3 because the preparations are as much of the job as the actual clinical study. And this production collaboration is an example of that, where we're working with a Chinese company to produce the peptide and a Swedish and international company, Recon, to produce the final drug in the bottle that is being sent to the clinic. And to go from phase 2, where we were before, which has full GMP quality, to phase 3, is a very, very complex procedure and involves several different factories and accreditation systems and FDA inspections and so on. And this has actually been achieved, and we were fortunate that the release of this first batch for clinical trials were made in June this year. I also, with the team, conducted a pre-initiation visit in Prague. So what is this? A pre-initiation visit is to make sure that everything is in place. The documents, the clinical setting, the pharmacy, the pathology, the monitor of the study. These phase 3 studies are extremely regulated and quite complex. And there needs to be persons, committed persons, in charge of each step. And of course, in Prague, the leader of the clinical trial is still Professor Babjuk, who has been collaborating with us all through this process with the phase 2 as well. He's also the dean of the medical school and has a prominent position in on the international arena in urology for bladder cancer. So as before, this is a very strong, how should I say, it's a key opinion leader that gives us the identity of a serious clinical trial entity that is required to complete the study and also to continue to the marketing application. And this requires personal meetings where all of the features are inspected. And then I think yesterday, we actually received approval from the European regulatory authority of this study. And we haven't mentioned this process to you because we have been working with the FDA for many years and you are familiar with this process. This has been a deliberate strategy on our part because the FDA is amenable to dialogues. And we have learned a lot from that dialogue about how the authorities expect our studies to be conducted and organized. So we had the phase 3 context from the FDA, and we were then able, just a few months ago, with the help of our regulators in Prague, to submit this whole file and a clinical study protocol specifically to the EMA. We've had a very positive and rapid dialogue resulting in this acknowledgement, in a way, of our competence, of the feasibility of the phase 3 study. This is a huge step. I hope all of you realize that this is the European equivalent to an FDA approval. We've also opened, as I said, a new window for the clinical trials, which involves the University of Iowa. And actually, University of Iowa contacted us. They had read the papers. They liked what they see, which is that we combine clinical trial competence with molecular insights. They like the combination of science and clinical studies, which is apparently fairly rare in the urology community. And so they contacted us and asked whether we could collaborate. And again, we went for a site visit to the University of Iowa, a very, how shall I say, internationally extremely well-recognized leader of this group who has been working with severe bladder cancer and trying to find new treatments for many, many years, also central person for a number of international trials that are being conducted from Iowa as the center in different networks. And so what does it require from our side? It requires that we deliver the drug, that we collaborate on the protocol and also on the clinical samples, which will be analyzed in Iowa, but also come back to Sweden, of course, for all the advanced analysis that we do here. An extremely efficient procedure with the University of Iowa, leading to the signing of an agreement after only a few months. And the fact that Professor O'Donnell is driving this process is, of course, extremely beneficial to learn more about this patient group and hopefully find that alpha-1 is effective. I have a lot of text here because there is a lot to say. So especially if you want to look at the text citing Professor O'Donnell's words when we did this press release, So he says, despite advances in bladder cancer treatment, high recurrence rates remain a major challenge. Patients with CIS have exhausted all available treatments without a cure and are faced with the prospect of bladder removal. Based on our evaluation of alpha-1H and the clinical results generated to date, we believe that the alpha-1H treatment warrants further investigation in this patient group. We look forward to working with Hamlet Biopharma and the scientists at Lund University to explore the potential of alpha-1H in patients with treatment-resistant cancer in situ. So we can come back to this in the discussion, but actually we see these as a third-party validation. This is a center with great international standing that is interested in how we work and who want to collaborate for these patients. And I think it's very important. I mean, the validation from the FDA and the EMA, of course, is also fantastic. And finally, I think yesterday morning, we press released a fun commentary from a site called Brief Glance. I don't know if you have seen it. We sent the link in the press release yesterday. I will just cite a few things that they say, because again, it's nice when other people talk about you, not when you don't blow your own trumpet. So this article outlines advanced scientific and clinical background, importance of collaboration, and significance for Hamlet Biopharma. Brief Glance describes alpha-1H as a promising treatment candidate, and it's a US-focused digital platform providing in-depth business analysis, etc. So this is what they say: a targeted attack from an unlikely source. Into this challenging landscape steps, they've talked about bladder cancer before, into this challenging landscape steps alpha-1H, a drug candidate with remarkable origin history, and unlike conventional chemotherapies that cause widespread collateral damage, alpha-1H is engineered for precision. It selectively enters tumor cells and triggers apoptosis. That's actually what we've shown, but it's nice to hear, isn't it? And it causes cancerous cells to shed into the urine, providing a real-time non-invasive biomarker. This dual mechanism, direct killing and simultaneously recruiting an immune response, positions alpha-1 as a uniquely powerful candidate. Music to our ears, right? They also talk, as they should, about Professor O'Donnell as a key opinion leader with multiple therapies in the field, and provides immense credit to Hamlet for the partnership. And then at the end, Swedish biotech establishing such strong clinical footprint in the US is something that they see as unusual and valuable. And finally, the goal is clear: to offer an effective bladder-preserving therapy where none currently exists. So we can share in this hope, and we are delighted that they pay attention to what we do. Finally, how have we been able to do this work? Our organization is a bit unusual. At the center of the organization is the team and the discovery platform that has been possible to build with all of the state-of-the-art technologies that are used in these studies and that are now attracting attention, international attention. We also have a phenomenal network of consultants for production, Hans Wennman for patents, Lee Chapman, the FDA group headed by Adam Harris, all of these leading consultants with long-term experience in the field of bladder cancer and also regulatory contacts have made it possible for us to work through these very labor-intensive processes and get out at the other end as we have now over the past few weeks. And I would especially like to mention the CRO in Prague, in Klino, who have been critical both to the US and the European process. So I would like to end here and then invite you all to the discussion, which we can continue in Swedish. Thank you for your attention.